Let us all just get started. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Unleashing Innovative Ideas to a Zero Waste Economy. It's Global Entrepreneurship Week. It's quite an exciting week in South Africa, in Africa, and all around the world. Global Entrepreneurship Week is a huge campaign by the Global Entrepreneurship Network, aiming to inspire and activate entrepreneurship all around the world. It's also not just Entrepreneurship Week, right? It's also COP27, which is a huge climate discussion and huge climate discussion event happening in Egypt this year. I think it started on the 6th and it ends on the 18th. However, I'm really looking forward to hearing the reports, the results, and the actions that people are really taking, because it is really crucial to what we're talking about today. We had a discussion yesterday about climate awareness, and we had two experts within the circular economy, and we discussed the link between sustainability, the circular economy, and climate awareness, especially within the South African context. So it's really awesome that people around the world are talking about this, but we need to find a way to have some sort of resonance with the topic, because the reason we're not seeing a lot of action, and we still regard climate action as something that a certain group of people should be doing, is because I don't think we're doing enough to share stories, to share information, to share information about what we all can do to take action. And that's why people just don't connect with climate action. And this is one of the reasons why we are talking about going zero waste. Another reason is that there are lots of opportunities within the green economy and taking climate action and caring about being sustainable with resources, not just for the climate, but also for yourself as an entrepreneur, as a person who is participating in the economy, as a person who employs people, who could possibly employ people in the future, as a job creator, as an entrepreneur. And I would like to showcase the business opportunities that are within the zero waste and the green economy and within the entire sustainability sphere. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest for today. I have here with us today Phume. And Phume, once I've done this, right, like once I've read your bio, you can please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your business and what it is that you do, and your journey and all that good stuff, right? So Phume is an architect by profession, and she's the founder of MKGreen Solutions, which is a youth-owned waste management and recycling collection business based in Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu Natal. The company was founded after the directors realized that the city had major waste and unemployment challenges. In 2017, MKGreen Solutions started operating as a community cleanup project. Later in 2018, the company joined Msunduzi Kerb Recycling Initiative program, which included the collection of recyclables from households, schools, and some local businesses. In 2020, the company was established as a formal business providing waste removal and disposal services for general food and rubble waste to commercial and domestic clients. Phume, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. Please share a bit more about yourself and your business, your current business, because you're an architect, and we'll talk more about that. Please share about your business.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on here, Pretty. I feel like you've almost spoken everything about the business. But yeah, as you said, we started as a community cleanup. We were just encouraged by the way things were looking in our city, how there was just waste everywhere, and our city was always in the headlines called City of Filth. So we were then like, what can we do to become a difference and be a solution on that problem? And that's how the cleanup started. But then when we realized that, oh, we can actually sell the recyclable waste that we sort of collect from the cleanups, then we were like, maybe we could just establish a more formal business from this, because there seems to be an economic opportunity. And then that led us to then later on, as in 2020, where we then sort of formalized ourselves as a business, and we started providing formal services with like our business clients. That's where we sort of try and separate and sort all the recyclable waste from their waste before we dispose at landfill. And what we dispose at landfill is just waste that is not recyclable. So we started with that. And then obviously, as we were growing, we would expand here and there, obviously just to sort of diversify our service offering to be able to grow our business. And then in 2020, last year, actually, we started a big project where we were appointed by a local municipality in Phumelele municipality to basically run and implement a recycling program for the whole municipality. And that's been challenging but exciting at the same time. So we sort of are currently implementing and running that program. And yeah, so we feel like there's a lot of growth that's still ahead of us, because our company, as we formally started in 2020, we're 2 years and a bit. So we're still quite new and fresh, but a lot has happened. And yeah, so basically why I became an entrepreneur, I think I was really inspired by by becoming a solution. And to me, it felt like becoming an entrepreneur is me becoming part of the solution, and more especially within the waste space, because we all know that waste is a major issue around the world. I won't even say just in South Africa, around the world. And also just being able to provide some form of employment to people. We all know that we have a high number of unemployment in our country. So those are the things that just got to me, that what can I do? How can I contribute into one, minimizing unemployment? What can I do to making our communities cleaner? Yeah, so basically that's why I started, that's why I actually got into or started in my entrepreneurial journey. I still do practice as an architect. Yeah, so I haven't lost that. And I think I'm trying to also find ways, I'm also trying to find ways of how to join the two somehow. How can my architectural skills be used in the waste management space? So yeah, that's like what I'm trying to figure out at this present moment, since I'm still practicing as an architect. So basically where we've come from as a business, so we did receive some funding in 2018. I think that's also another thing that sort of boosted us to be able to say, okay, because we received funding of Abaki, we can actually start some form of operations, even though we ended up operating in 2020. And what's scary is that, I mean, our business officially operated in 2020 when it was COVID-19. So that's where I actually resigned from my formal employment, because as much as I still practice architecture, but it's like I'm doing it by myself, like it's another business. So that was so scary, because I got into focusing fully on becoming an entrepreneur in 2020. There was COVID, and I was just like, oh, am I making the right decision? So I was very, very, very stressed. But I mean, when I look back now, I feel like it's been worth it. It hasn't been easy, but it all has been worth it. So as MKGreen Solutions, we've received a number of funding opportunities from private companies, companies like Polyco, who are basically, what are they called again? They are basically, though, responsible for taking money from big companies like Coca-Cola, Unilever, and making sure that recycling is implemented, because obviously they are producers of many recyclables. So I'm just forgetting the name, what they actually called, but companies like them, other private companies locally. So we've received a number of funding that has assisted us in getting like minor infrastructure, that's assisted us in being able to provide our services and collect waste and recyclables accordingly. We've also initiated a cash for trash incentive for our communities, where we buy waste and they get cash, which is also a way of encouraging community members to basically clean up their communities. I think that's very important. I mean, we should just be cleaning up, but I mean, that's not happening. So how can we incentivize people to encourage them to be like, oh no, I'll clean up because I can get some money out of it. So that's like one of our major program that we are pushing and trying to push and trying to even spread it out into other cities within KZN, and most especially the rural communities, because those are the areas that don't receive much servicing of waste from the municipalities. So they end up burning their waste, dumping their waste ends up in the rivers, because I mean, they have no other place to basically dispose of the waste. So they're doing whatever they think is best. So those are the areas we're targeting to try and minimize the waste from being burned, the waste from being illegally dumped, and also from the waste ending up in our rivers and then obviously in our oceans. So yeah, and to date, I think when we started, we diverted about 1.2 tons of waste from being landfilled. And then now to date, we've basically, well, this year, in fact, we've been able to divert about 125 tons of waste from being landfilled, which is quite good. I think, you know, it's not that much, but I mean, it's big for us as small as we are. And obviously we know that we can increase that by a lot as we spread our footprints throughout the communities. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, also, I almost forgot just to mention, obviously, another thing, sorry, like, obviously starting a business isn't easy, and there are a number of challenges that we have obviously come across. Some we've been able to overcome, some we haven't. And I think a major challenge is sometimes just the lack of support from municipalities, because in the sector that we're in and how we're also wanting to sort of impact communities, we feel as if being in partnership with the municipality would actually make that a little bit easier. But the lack of support poses as a bit of a challenge in just being able to easily implement what we're wanting to implement, being able to minimize as much waste as we can from being landfilled. I think that's another main challenge, like one of the main challenges that we've been having. And also I'd say government funding, access to government funding. I think we've just been, I don't know, because we do get private companies funding us, but I don't know why it's so hard for us to get funding from government. So that's also a bit of a challenge for us. And just access to affordable land. And as I said, I mean, we are a small company, so that's a major challenge that we're currently facing, that we can't access affordable land to be able to expand our operations, expand what we want to do. Because another thing that you guys might know or might not know is that composting is quite big. There's a lot of food waste that's landing up in the landfills. We also would like to tackle that and see what can we do. How can we add into becoming part of the circular economy? If we collect the food waste, if we compost it, we resell it even to those farmers that are selling to the restaurants. So we actually getting into the circular economy even more by being able to do that. But obviously now, because of the lack of space, it makes it a bit of a challenge for us to be able to implement things like that will benefit the communities. I mean, we could employ more people through that division of the business. So yeah, thank you.
Wow, Phume, I'm going to come to you for mentorship because you know, I'm starting a textile recycling company, right? So I congratulations on all the milestones. Whoa, like I'm blown away by your work. So one of the reasons we're doing this and why it is placed on record is so that we can play this back to key stakeholders throughout the ecosystem, especially startup ecosystems that need to be financed by the local municipalities and the local governments. There seems to be barriers. So when I sat in at a panel discussion earlier this year during a Women's Day event, a few people from local government were there, and what they're saying is that they have a lot of programs out there, but people aren't applying. But you know for sure that you've applied for a few, right? So it's just like there's barriers, like it's we need to understand each other as stakeholders, I believe. And I think discussions such as these will help shed light to the key stakeholders that do play an important role in helping us make our businesses sustainable and create employment opportunities and so on and so forth. So, yeah, thank you very much for sharing your story and sharing your journey with us. One of the reasons, again, that I've got partners such as BizTweak is so that we can take, when we go back to the government, for example, as an investment stakeholder, we're going to go back to them with your entire case study, and we're going to show them, this is what you've done, this is the work that you've been doing, these are the milestones you've reached, but these are the gaps within your business, and this is where you need assistance. And they will be, it will be like mandatory for them to help. They can't not help. So I'm super excited that you are here with us today, and that you've enabled, you know, us to kind of like tap into your business and your knowledge and your experience. Thank you. So does anyone have a question for Phumi so far about her business?
Yes, so I just wanted to ask, how was the transition from, you know, being an employee to being a full-on entrepreneur, and how did you navigate that? You know, from a financial perspective, how did you, what plans did you make? Was it a 5-year plan you'd worked on? I'm curious to know, get some tips also.
So how long? I think it was a 3-year plan. I think it was a 3-year plan. So when I started working, I was saving. And I think another thing, just to move out of it, is just that one thing that encouraged me as well was the fact that I don't think I wasn't earning much. I think that was just so frustrating that it just made it so not worth it. I was like, oh, it's definitely not worth it, especially if I know I can do so much more out of architecture only. I was saving. I saved for about 3 years. And obviously it wasn't easy. I think even my family was like, what are you doing? Are you sure? My mom was so against it at the beginning. And then at the end, she sort of saw that I wasn't happy. You know, not that I wasn't happy because of whatever was happening at work, but I just felt that I was not in my purpose. So I wanted to be in my purpose where I know that I'm impacting people. I mean, I felt that in architecture, I couldn't impact people the way I feel like I'm meant to impact people. You know, so at the end, my mom was fine with it, but then, so then I had set up some money so that I'm able to sort of pay myself, while we, like start up the business in 2020. But it wasn't, obviously I had to adjust to the kind of spending I had. I had to be like, okay, what are the important things, and just focus on those important things. And then that's one thing that was also driving me, that obviously this has to work because the money I've saved up will run out. So it needs to make sense so that at least I know that I can take care of myself. But I mean, it hasn't been easy, you know. There are days where I have to sacrifice and be like, okay, things aren't going that great. I need to just prioritize my employees, for example. You know, those challenges, and sometimes clients are not paying on time. Obviously, if they're not paying on time, I need to make means to make sure I pay my workers, and that could affect me financially. So basically, that's about it. I think, I don't know if that does answer your question, but obviously
Yes,
planning is important, and just having like a strategy. It's okay, this is the plan, and just being strict on yourself. You know, you can't relax. You need to know that this has to work. If this doesn't work, what else can I do? Like, I don't know, but like, how can I expand the business into a certain direction, you know? I'll just make an example, because when the business like formally started in 2020, COVID came, right? So when COVID came, most of our clients, because most of our clients that we collect the waste from are like restaurants were closed, right? So then it took like pivoting and like thinking out of the box. In the meantime, when we have COVID and we have lockdowns, what can we do to sustain ourselves and build ourselves as a business? And that's when I came up with us providing disinfection and deep cleaning services, which sustained us during that time. You know, one could have been so stressed and be like, oh no, I'm gonna call my boss, I'm going back to work. But like being an entrepreneur, like you just need to think out of the box, try find solutions with everything, and see how to best tackle things in order to be able to just basically survive. Yeah, so I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. That's really inspiring. Yeah, and I think as entrepreneurs, we can use the experience, the obstacles that we meet along the journey to also maybe even create a guide for those who are thinking of just impulsively jumping ship from corporate to entrepreneurship, because you do need to be smart about it and make wise decisions, even though it's a risk being an entrepreneur. Yeah. Thank you.
And another thing, just to add to that, is that it's entrepreneurship, especially when it starts, is not as glamorous as some people make it seem. I think there's a misconception where people make it seem as if it's so glamorous and beautiful, but when you're starting up, maybe when you're into 5-10 years in the business, it might be glamorous, but when you're starting up, it's definitely not glamorous. It's a lot of hard work. Yeah.
Well, so just one more question, just before, Arthur, I can see that you're trying to say something, but I have a question for you, Phume. How many people do you currently have on your team right now?
Okay, so we currently have 5 people that I could say are employed in a full-time basis. And then depending on the amount of work we have, we then do have like 3 to 4 people on a part-time basis. Obviously, as I said, it just depends on how much work we need to do in terms of collection, more especially of recyclables. If there's a lot, then we'll add more people to the team on a part-time basis.
Nice, amazing. You are feeding 5 households. So yay.
Yes, and that's also very encouraging.
Yeah.
And I think to add to that, pretty even indirectly, because we have like waste picker or waste reclaimers that we buy waste from. So indirectly, we even, I'll say, employing those people because we're providing like economic opportunity for those people. And it's about 35 ladies that sell recyclable waste to us, even though it's not direct employment, but we do make sure at least at the end of the month, they're able to get an income to feed their families from the waste that they collect.
Yeah. Awesome. That's incredible. Arthur, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to find out when was the turning point for you? When did you decide that I'm going in? Because there's my personal experience, there's that period where you want to do it and the idea is so nice when you think about it. And then there's the actual part where you have to take the leap, So I just wanted to know for you, when was the, I'm going in, the turning point?
For me, the turning point, because basically I've worked in corporate, I worked for 4 years, and that was like my first employment, I think, after varsity. And I had been applying during, I think, the second year of my employment, just trying to see if I can get work elsewhere. But obviously, I wasn't getting work elsewhere. And in where I worked, in a way, I'd say my boss really, really enslaved us. Like, when someone can see your potential and they sort of take advantage of that and not pay you much, I think that was also one thing that I was just like, do I still need to be doing this? And like spending a lot of time at the office, like I'd come back home at about 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, where usually I'd try and be able to, as I was preparing to move to MKG, I was able to make time if I knock up at 4 to do some things, but frequently closer to me wanting to leave, it was like me spending a lot of hours in the office, which just made it so frustrating. There was opportunities to attend trainings, to attend this and that, and I'm just like, how do I do it? I'm here at the office, even though my boss, when I told him I'm resigning, was like, no, you should have told me. I'm just like, it wasn't going to work. How do I attend those trainings during the day when I need to be at the office? That means I'm missing out on opportunities, which obviously now when I look back, when I see I've been able to attend certain things that I wouldn't have been able to attend when I was still working full time. So I just sat and I was like, no, it doesn't make sense. The money is not motivating me. I could be spending this amount of time and this amount of efforts building my own thing. And yeah, make it happen and make it work for me rather than just being where I was. So I was very unhappy. Like I was, like just the thought of me coming back home late and not being able to at least do something that builds to my dream was very frustrating. And I was just like, no, I can't do that anymore. I need to have the time to be able to build. And plus, I looked at the fact that I'm not married, I don't have any kids. Why not do it now? Once I'm married and have kids, it would have been a lot harder.
Wise lady. So wise. I can kind of relate to that because there were instances back in around 2013 when I really started loathing corporate. And I felt it was so soul destroying just being there and building someone else's dream, right? So yeah, no, that's wonderful.
But I mean, the experience helps. Like, I mean, yes, obviously we don't want to spend too much time building someone else's dream when we have our own, but the experience does help. I mean, I feel like I've been able to implement things in our business that I learned there that have assisted in terms of certain administrative things and whatnot. So at least you know that that experience is not wasted. It can be used to actually help you build your dream as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to, you know, chip in there with my also view of this whole, I like when you said, you know, entrepreneurship, people think it's glamorous, you know, especially if you look at, you know, what I like to call Instagram, you know, entrepreneurship, where everyone is posting pictures with their laptops out somewhere at some coffee shop, you know, crossing a street with a latte in their hand or a cappuccino, you know, things like that. But when you really dig into it and you see what phases you have to go through, it's hell, to be honest. And which is, you know, part of the reason why we at BizTweak we do what we do, because we want to help entrepreneurs know what they don't know about entrepreneurship, about the journey, for them to fail as quickly as possible, and for them to realize that, you know, entrepreneurship is not for you as quickly as possible, or for you to realize what you need to do in order to move in the right direction, through the assessments that we do and all of that. I mean, it's also it has also been my experience, Pumi, that, you know, it's so funny that you know, when you start a business and, you know, start a business with a couple of people that I knew, you know, and you know, the first 4 or 5 months people are posting on WhatsApp, people are posting on social media, but then when the rubber, you know, starts to hit the road there about 10 months and things are tough and you still haven't made a sale, now the WhatsApp posting stops, people, you know, stop talking about their businesses and so much. And people just fade away because they're in love with the idea of being in business and not with, you know, solving the actual problem and the reason why they started the business, you know. So yeah, I connect so much with that statement.
Yeah, no, that's so true, Arthur. I think, yeah, people, the idea is amazing, but the work that goes into it is not nice. Yeah. Only the tough, I think it takes you to be quite tough and resilient, actually. Yeah, that's the word, resilient, to be able to push through.
Well,
Agreed.
yeah, that is so true. Thank you for the great points. And the one thing that we need to remember about entrepreneurship, right, is that the first 3 years, the first 3 to 4 years test you as a person. Like, do you really want to do this? Like, are you really saying you want to be rich, or are you joking? Like, are you playing? So the things you go through test whether you want to take advantage of your opportunities, create employment for people, and be the leader that you say you are. And you don't have to start a huge business, right? But it takes a lot of personal work for a person to come out as a leader, an example, a person that can lead a company that is ethical, that is transparent, that takes care of its employees and the environment, and so there are so many things that you have to think about as an entrepreneur. And then before you get there, there's a lot that you need to change within yourself. And people don't understand that. So I think when they go through a lot, they just give up. But I guess it just shows, like, because I mean, we can't all be entrepreneurs, right? Some people were meant to be the support team, the people that come up with the strategies, and then there are people that come up with the execution. So different people play different roles within a company. I don't think we were all meant to be entrepreneurs, but we go through quite a bit to test whether or not you can do what you say you're going to do as a leader. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what there's another point that you touched on that resonates, oh man, wait, just give me 3 seconds. Someone is. Okay, yeah, yes. I mean, you touched on, working on yourself. I believe that, when you start a business, the most important thing or the most important aspect is personal mastery, because when you start a business, as the founder, you are the business, you are everything. You are the finance, you are the HR, you are the security guard, you are the driver. So much from you, and you need to know yourself. You need to know what you can and can't do. You need to know what your weaknesses are. You need to understand who you are, because your whole business, is based on you, is centralized around you as a person. And if you don't know what your shortcomings are, if you don't understand yourself, your triggers and whatnot, then you are essentially going to cause the business to fail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that is the business is drawing energy from the founder, and then you need to somehow have unlimited well of energy, and sometimes that means finding other people who are going to pour into your cup. For instance, when my first business, I failed dismally. The business did well for like a year. We made money, but then after that, the money it disappeared like a fart in the wind. It just, and I failed sharp, and I was hiding from the world. I was just, a bit depressed. But then when I went back the second time to try again, I actually went through, a program with Accenture where they paid for us to go to Henley Business School and da-da-da. And the first 3 weeks of that program, I was at Henley Business School, we only focused on personal mastery. And it was then, about 2.5, 3 years later, I realized that actually the problem is, I'm the problem. The problem is me. The first business failed because I didn't understand, my limitations. I thought that I needed to do everything all the time. I didn't know how to, deploy other people to help me achieve the goals that I had set for myself. So it was a very rude awakening, the failure, and also realizing, years later that you are the problem, and having to accept that you are the problem in your business when you are the one who started it is a very, bitter pill to swallow.
Oh my gosh, Arthur,
My goodness.
We need to have a session and talk about personal mastery, because
absolutely.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, so that's amazing. Thank you so much for that point. And it's very important. Like, before you go out into the world, you've got to understand yourself. And I think it's one of the things that they kind of missed with us in school. Like, hello, like, learn yourself, do what you love, understand what makes you happy, and all those things. Like, it's not just fluff, it's so that you can have some sort of guidance later in life. But anyway, personal mastery will be our next session, everybody.
Can't wait. So excited. I just wanted to add to what Arthur said. Thank you so much, Arthur, for those sentiments. And yes, I agree with you. Personal mastery and high levels of self-awareness are definitely important. Do you advocate business coaches, or do you think entrepreneurs should maybe go to a business school like Henley's and get assistance with personal mastery? What are your thoughts on that?
This is very tricky, right? The question that you are asking is, I think it's tricky, and it's a bit controversial. I have a controversial view towards this, because one, entrepreneurship really can't be taught. I failed, let me just say this background. I grew up in a family where my dad had a couple of liquor businesses. From the age of 12, I worked in those businesses, and I understood, business from a perspective of, okay, product selling, profit, stock selling, profit, that circular sort of like approach. But then when I went into my own business, I still failed. I had to be in my own business in order to see the other aspects of business that needed to be done. So with I say that to say this, business advisors, in most cases, these are people who come from academia. These are people who have studied, entrepreneurship and the systems that have to do with entrepreneurship or this, that, or the other. And in my experience, most of them have not built businesses. And as a result, they cannot really speak directly to what might be the needs of the entrepreneur, right? So you will find in some fringe instances where you have business advisors that have built businesses and have failed and have decided to advise other people on how to build businesses. But the business advisors I really don't align with or gravitate towards are those who have never in a single day, ran any business or failed in any business, because there are certain things that you can only teach from experience. There are certain things that you can only have insights to if you've done them. I mean, if you give me a textbook on entrepreneurship, I can read it for the whole month and then start advising people on business based on what the textbook is saying. But in my journey, I've realized that a lot of the business advice I've been getting from the programs that I was in was nonsense. Excuse that word, but it was nonsense, because they are not really speaking to the insights of what is happening in that industry. Only when I started engaging, the value chain to see, oh, these are the target audiences. Oh, but I can't sell to this target audience because you need a network to get into this target audience. And no matter how much advice you can get from a business advisor, if they're not going to give you networks for you to be able to sell into those markets, then it becomes they become redundant or useless, So I take the advice of business advisors with not even a pinch of salt, a spoonful, because in most cases, the advice is really not, a true reflection or representation of the industries, Yeah. Just go into the entrepreneurship and fail. And failure is part of the success, because then it says to you, this is not what you're supposed to be doing, try something else. Then you fail again, then it's like Thomas Edison say, when he failed 2,000 times to make the light bulb and they were mocking him in the media that he's a failure, he's like, guys, I just found 2,000 ways of how not to make a light bulb. I just need one way of how to. So yeah, that's
mindset.
Sort of like my view. Long-winded, but yeah. Yes.
Great. Thanks.
Can I add to that? I think what people fear the most is failing, because being an entrepreneur is a risk. And I guess that's not for everyone. And I feel like I'm always interested in someone who's started a business and has failed. I feel like that person has so much more to offer than someone who hasn't failed.
Thank you. So I'm a huge fan of business mentors. And I was just actually saying to Pretty earlier on that I feel like she's my mentor, because she's got a vast experience with dealing with various entrepreneurship or people in the entrepreneurship space, and also just her soft skills and how she's able to connect with people. I think there's a lot to be learned there. So yeah, I prefer interacting with business owners that can be mentors, even if they maybe a decade younger than you. There's always something to learn from somebody who has experience and who's been in the trenches,
Well, you can trust that I've been through a lot, and from here, I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. Okay, we're not sugarcoating anything. Thank you very much, Ellen. That inspires me, for real. We're not going to stop. We can't stop. We have to keep going. And the only way to do this is by surrounding ourselves with people who've had the same experiences, people that do what we want to do one day, people who only want to see you win, like people who are positive and people who are honest as well, right? Because there's no point of having people who are positive and then they're not honest
No
about
integrity.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, I've worked really hard to make sure that I find those people, and I'm going to share. I'm going to share everything. I want us all to get rich. So anyway, or without
Love
further
it.
ado, let's not. I love this. I love the fact that we are talking about entrepreneurship, like the realness of entrepreneurship. And what you're giving me right now is topics for our next discussions, because I feel like we can never talk enough about the things that we've touched on. And it's the reason why people are not getting started. Like when a person has an idea, they're afraid to try it out because they are afraid of so many different things. But also after trying, then what, right? Like I would like to create platforms, resources, tools, and I'm currently working very hard on that to make sure that first of all, we inspire people to get started. And when they do get started, they get supported. And when they do start earning an income, that income is sustainable and it sustains the community and it just creates an impact. So that's one of the things that I'm passionate about. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for adding so much value to this discussion. Can we talk about plastic waste in South Africa now and in Africa? So here's a bit of an overview, right? The demand for plastic packaging in Africa is growing, driven by low costs in several application areas. However, plastic remains harmful to us and the health of the environment. Recycling has emerged as a solution to mitigate the environmental effects, but it must be scaled to have significant impact. So we need more people like Phume everywhere, but a lot of people see waste as just waste. So I think we need to start creating awareness and start changing behavior and start changing mindsets around resources. So like waste isn't waste. Waste wasn't waste originally, right? It was some product. It was something before it became waste. We created the waste. So I'm going to ask these 3 questions, and if any of you guys would like to engage, then please feel free to answer, right? So the first question, and I'm going to ask our expert first, Phume, for you, what are the opportunities that we are not aware of in moving away from single-use plastic use? Because plastic gets produced, it gets into the value chain, eventually ends up with consumers, but we don't know how to handle plastic waste. So what do you think, what for you are the opportunities that we are all not aware of in moving away from single-use plastic?
So for me, I think especially obviously being new in the space is just one, realizing the economic opportunities that are available, more especially in plastic. I mean, we know that plastic is everywhere. Like most of our packaging is mainly plastic. Even if it does have a cardboard, there's an element that's going to have plastic in it. I think the economic opportunities and innovation around what can be done, I feel like, as you were saying previously, like awareness, people are so not aware that I can take plastic and create a brick and build a house, for example. There's a company, I forgot their name. I was going to research them. I think it's Ramotsilo Bricks or something, but They take plastic, convert the plastic, and they make bricks, they make pavers. People are not aware of that. So many people are just like, oh, it's just plastic, you know, and understanding that obviously there are different types of plastic, there are different roles that each plastic plays. I was sharing with my employees the other day, or a few months ago, when I was doing a training with them about like obviously the bigger vision of the company, because we'd like to get into the actual recycling and processing of some of the plastic that we buy and sell, you know, showing them a jacket of mine that is made 100% of plastic. You know, people are not aware of those things. People don't notice those things, that there's so much value that can be extracted to something that is seen as waste, you know. So I think that's for me a main thing, that when we speak about circular economy or the green economy, we're speaking about a different economy, something that we do have, but you could expand it so much more if people were aware of what can be done in that space, you know. Yeah, I feel like even looking at things like in agriculture, I'll make an example of, okay, I'm not in like Joburg. Pretty, are you from Joburg?
Yeah, well,
big city.
Pretoria and Joburg, both of it.
Yeah. So with big cities, you'd know with urbanization, like if you're living in a flat, for example, you don't have the luxury to have a garden and set up your own home garden. But there's something called upcycling that comes with the recycling of plastic, where you can take your plastic bottles, make them something to use to plant your veggies, to plant something. Like there's so much that can be done besides just recycling, but also upcycling. And I think it opens room for us to change how we do things. When I say us, I'm not speaking about myself directly, but I'm speaking about the people that manufacture packaging products, for them to think differently and for them to be a little bit more conscious that, okay, I have designed this. Yes, the consumer will use it, but then what happens? I think it's opening up the minds of people. It's forcing manufacturers to think differently and understand that they also have a responsibility, you know, to make sure that we end single-use plastic. What do we do? I was talking to a friend of mine about, I don't know if you guys know Lucozade, that is it an energy drink? I don't know what it's called. There isn't much of it now. But you know that Lucozade bottle is not recyclable. That is embarrassing. Why are we, in this day and age, having plastic products that are not recyclable? What are we saying about our environment? I mean, if the environment is affected, our health is affected. What are we saying about the health? Like, are we saying we don't care what we putting back out into the environment, or we putting back out into the community? Yeah, so for me, I feel like there's a lot of innovative opportunities. There's a lot of economic opportunities. As I made that example about the bricks, there's a lot that people really don't know. There's also a solution, I think it was in India, but then it's being done in Australia or Canada, if I'm not mistaken, where plastic is being used and converted to be a pothole repair solution. Those are the things that people don't think about. You know, there's so much. I mean, I'm just mentioning a few that I know, a few that I have an interest in, but there's so much more, you know, there's so much more. It's a new economy, you know, there's an economy, like there's room for creating biodegradable products. That's a new economy. I mean, we say there's no employment in our country, but look at other ways where we can create employment through this green circular economy, which is something different to what we usually, what we have or what we've known. Yeah, so that's it for me.
Thank you. That's incredible. That's awesome. Again, we are certainly going to have another session on new economies, like new underexplored economies. So, I mean, outside of the circular economy, there is the creative economy is not new, right? Like it's always been there, but I feel like we're not enabling the creative economy enough. And if we merged these economies, like the creative economies, I know people in Joburg who are in the film space who just don't know how to run their businesses effectively. This is where you would come in, Ellen, you know, and I know that there are people in those creative economies that can support people in the circular economy, because in the circular economy, it's people who are just concerned about the social impact, creating what they create, doing what they do to sustain their communities. They don't know how to tell their stories. They don't know how to share what they're doing. So imagine if we all collaborated, and imagine the job opportunities that we would create in between those collaborations. So our next session, Pumi, we're going to talk about underexplored economies.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, Ellen, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Oh no. Thank you, Phumelele. And I love how articulate you are. You have this ability to, sorry, let me just put my headphones on. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, yeah. No, I was just saying, I admire this ability you have to properly express and articulate what your business is about. And I think that that's a key trait to have there as an entrepreneur, great communication skills. So keep it up. Keep it up. Not all of us have that ability, trust me.
No, thanks for that. I think where myself and Pretty Maids was the AWE 2021, which is it Academy for Women Entrepreneurs. I might not be getting the acronym right, but that helped me, Ellen, I'm not gonna lie. It helped me to be able to articulate myself the way I am. Previously, I was never this confident, but I think going through that program made me know how to articulate what I do, what I want to do, and just build my confidence as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Amazing. I definitely need to join that program because I mean, I think I could do with some, improvement.
Oh, I'll tell you something funny. Before I started the program, I did not want to get on camera. I did not want to hear my voice. I'm serious. I'm not joking. Like it was during 2020, like throughout 2020, when we had our meetings, I refused to be on camera because I'm like, why? I don't want people to see my face. And like I hated the way my voice sounded. I'm like, oh, why? I don't like the sound of my voice. But it's just all these things that you have in your head, like
insecurities.
Yeah, so it's with practice and with knowing that you have a safe space, and like doing it over and over again and being okay with messing it up. And I mean, I don't look back at the things that I record even today still. I think it's going to take me a while, but I'm so silly, but at least I've taken the first step. Here we are, right? So it's going to take me a while to work on it, but the point is that I'm working on it, and that's motivating. So yes, we're going to share that as soon as it comes up. I think the calls for applications come out more towards the end of the year, the beginning of the year. I can't recall, but definitely I'll share it with you. And the opportunities there as well. So it's not just the program itself, it's what you want to do with your business, and you get to see like who you can connect with, who you can collaborate with. We weren't in the program together, Puma and I. Puma took the program a year after, but the person that was my facilitator remembered me and remembered like my business would be a great merge or a great collaborator with Puma. And now with Slow Textiles, because Puma has been around operating for longer than I haven't even started. She is going to be my service provider for some of the things that I don't have, so that I don't
wonderful
reinvent the wheel and start things from scratch. So
love it.
These are the opportunities that are in these programs. Like Arthur also mentioned some programs that he was in. So by all means, if you find any program at all, get in there, because those people become your support structure and your network. And yeah, so yes. So tons of opportunities there are tons of opportunities, right? Now I can't get the Lucozade thing out of my head. I didn't know. So then my next question becomes, like they put these marks, right, on like these labels to say recycled, recyclable, non-recyclable, but they don't even write out the words in full. There's codes like PET, PPET. So how are we supposed to translate, so it's like very interesting. The plastic industry is very, very interesting. But there are opportunities in what we see wrong, right? Like whatever that we're seeing is wrong, there's opportunities in making it right. So yeah, thank you for that, Phume.
Can I just add, I think it might be a thing I said at the end, but I think when you just mentioned something about the numbers and whatnot, I think it's just about familiarizing yourself. I mean, if you are wanting to be a solution as well, because one thing we need to know as consumers, the waste we produce is our responsibility. I feel like sometimes you feel as if, oh, I've put it in the refuse bag, I'm done. But no, you're not done. You created that waste. You need to know that it's your responsibility. So even just to get the knowledge, it should be your responsibility. Oh, okay, there's this thing called recycling. What can I do? How can I be part of the solution? Because if I didn't have if I didn't take out that refuse bag, that means I didn't contribute to waste going to the landfill, and landfills are running out of space. Like, I think we really need a mind shift, which goes with being educated as well, though. Yeah.
Wonderful. What I'm loving about what she's saying, I've noted, Phumelele, that you've mentioned the word solution quite a few times, and you haven't spoken about revenue, making money, driving profits. So I definitely see the passion there. And let me tell you something, lady, the money is going to come if you continue with this trajectory of wanting to add value and bring solutions. So I'm inspired, like honestly inspired. And it's refreshing to listen to you, not just talk about making money. So yeah, keep it up.
Well, I'm totally inspired too. I'm like, I want to go to Durban, and like maybe I need to work with you. Like maybe I need to be part of your team so that I can just get a grasp of what you do. It's amazing. Okay, so then the next question, right, is I can't move my I'll move to the next question. So I'm going to find the next question very quickly. Oh, Puma, you said the hour program will be what? Be on the lookout for the program.
Yeah, she must be on the lookout because it usually comes at some time. I remember, when did we have the riots in last year? It was in June, July. Yeah, so look out, May, June, July. Yeah, but as long as she can go on, follow them on social media, you'll find out when the next applications are open. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing, Ellen, you can find the social media pages of the American Embassy. It's safe for me to mention the American Embassy because they are supporting this. Like the other day when we were doing a campaign, there's a girl who mentioned a brand, and I'm not going to mention like a bank, and she mentioned it so many times. I kept forgetting to tell her that, hey, these people aren't sponsoring us, so not yet. So please don't promote this brand. And I forgot. And we've put out the video out there. So now that company has no choice. They're just gonna have to sponsor us.
Okay, cool. So that went well then. Right? Thank goodness for that slip up.
Yes, it's the angle I'm gonna use. Like that's the first company I'm going to approach, and I'm gonna be like, hello, look at this video. Look at how this lady nicely promoted you, and look at how many views it has. So yeah, I thank her. Yes, so Ellen, please follow the American Embassy's social media pages, their LinkedIn as well as their Facebook. They usually share the opportunities there.
Okay, great. Well, give them a follow. What kind of opportunities do they share?
Everything. So everything from entrepreneurship programs to like professional program, like graduate programs, to like community builder programs. So like if you're a person who really cares about their community and you want to make change in your community, there's this program where they're like, you can apply. And well, this is not our way, right? This is the American Embassy. you apply into that program and you go overseas and you have to come back and like apply what you learned for, because I think the overseas thing is about 6 months. You have to come back and apply that. And then while you're there, they connect you with other resources and other people. It's incredible. So please do have a
Sounds
look.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm on LinkedIn and I'm just checking out the American Embassy, and there's like a whole lot of other stuff.
Follow South
There's a
Africa.
school.
Follow
Oh
American
gosh.
Embassy South Africa, and then usually I get opportunities on Facebook. Like I think I found their thing on Facebook, not LinkedIn. Anywho, so let's
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Pretty. Before you continue, I think you're talking about the Mandela Washington Fellow Program. The
Yeah.
one where
It
you
could
go where you go overseas for a couple of like for a while and you come back and you have to implement. I think that's the one. I actually applied for that, but yeah, I think that's the one.
Yeah, so
Is that
that's
the one?
of them, because there's like several. So there's the Manila one, there's the Obama one, there's tons of leadership opportunities. And I'm so excited that you applied and yes.
I just hope, guys, there's no age cap, because everything is like 35 and under, and I am over 35, guys. So
some of them do have, some of them do say like for what are you when you're not youth? I don't know why they cap the youth, because Ellen, you are
yeah.
like, why?
Listen,
do you
young
not feel like
forever.
are you not
I'm a youth. I'm a youth with a mature
So-
mind, okay?
Yeah, I don't understand why they say youth is until 34. It's very weird. Like,
But the Mandela one, they say they don't cap it. They say they give preference to under 35s, but they don't cap it. I guess it's just going to depend on your application and what do they think, but they just say anyone but under 35 with preference. But so yeah, I think you could try that one.
lovely. Okay, so yes, is there anything else that we wanted to touch on before I move on? We're good. Okay, so the next question, excuse me. The next question that we need to look at is, what are some of the negative impacts of plastics that have been found that can turn into opportunities? So I'll give you an example, right? Like recently in my textile recycling research, because now I'm discovering that it isn't that easy, right? You can't just take a very old clothes that just don't have use anymore and recycle them into into new fabric. Also learned that there are fabrics that release like microplastics, so like very, very tiny plastics that you breathe in, like like when you put your clothes in the washing machine and there's this fluff man that gets left behind. There is research that shows that there's microplastics found in those things, and this is just from the textile sphere, right? But in the plastic sector, what are some of the opportunities of plastic? So this is like another way of the question that I asked you, but like in a different way. The negative impacts of plastic, what can we do to turn those into opportunities?
Okay, I know this question almost sounds like the first one, but I will make an example of something that my team and I tried to work on last year. So obviously we know how the waste gets into our oceans. It's through the rivers, right? That's the main source of the waste getting into our rivers. And as I said previously, that those communities, unfortunately, and I'm not saying it's right for them to do what they do, but they don't have access to services to collect the waste. Therefore, they end up finding other alternative ways, which unfortunately I've seen in townships like here in Maritzburg, where there's banks and banks of waste, and those banks lead to rivers, right? Those banks lead to rivers, which will lead to the oceans. So last year when we were speaking with my team, we were just like, wow, you know, obviously a majority of what that lands up there, you'll see obviously it's plastics, straws, cans, it's all recyclable waste. And we are like, imagine if we are able to find a solution of basically using plastic somehow, and creating like something that can block the waste, you know. Obviously that'll be a temporary solution. The biggest solution is making sure that the users have the service or are recycling, for example. But if they don't, then we create like nets around our banks or something like that, or within the rivers that, okay, as much as it's going to be on the bank and it'll get into the river, there's something catching that waste. So for example, I think that's one thing when I saw this question, that's something I thought of. I'm like, that's something we thought of, and I think it is being done in another country, but obviously we didn't get around to implementing it. But things like that, using, that's one of the examples how we can use plastic to catch waste and prevent the plastic from ending up in the landfill sites. You also, ending up in the oceans. You also have where there's litter, and in some communities we have plastic black bins that have been created from recycled plastic to collect the litter. So people are basically encouraged to deposit the waste into those bins, you know. But I mean, you could see that as waste, but that has been converted into a bin to put in the waste. So I think that's like one opportunity, like two examples of opportunities where plastic could negatively affect, but it can be used as a product to be like, okay, let's take this and put it in there. Because I mean, we know how waste sort of really disturbs our ecosystems in such a bad way, more especially the oceans. There's a video I sent you, Pretty, that I'd like for you to share at the end, if you're able to. I sent it on WhatsApp. But yeah, I think those are the opportunities that I can think of from the top of my head. But I feel like there could be so much more opportunities where, yes, we know that, and I think sometimes having the waste even in the townships is also an opportunity. Maybe it's not answering the question directly, but I feel like it's an opportunity to enlighten people as well. You know, there's a community that we're going to be sort of setting up a mobile buyback center in, and there's waste everywhere. And the problem is there's no waste collection services. But we see this as an opportunity to be like, you know what, we can enlighten this community. This community can be cleaner, and we can buy that waste from them, therefore making these dumping areas clean or cleaner, you know, based on them selling recyclable waste to us. You know, I think especially when I look at people of our skin color that are not really educated, how else will people know and understand unless they visibly see the problem? You know, I don't visibly see the problem where I stay, but obviously I'm a little bit more educated, so I have an understanding. So people in those communities don't really understand. It doesn't make any sense. So being there, physically seeing the problem, and then having people like us and other people coming into those communities then enlightens those people. Oh, okay, I've got a bit of knowledge. Oh, I can even also make money here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Phumelele. I mean, you mentioned that the question, you know, like you kind of indicated that you had already answered it, but no, like you've just added more, like, you know, enlightenment into the subject matter. So thank you so much for that. So I know that we have spoken about what role we can all play, like, and it all starts with just being aware, right, of our impact, being aware of the fact that we're all participating in all of this. We can't just put it all in the bin and expect it to go away. There is no away. So I just want to know from you, right, what would support look like for you to get to the next level of your business? What does support look like? What would you like to be supported with?
That's a great question.
For me, I think one, support looks like just being able to get active partnership from municipalities. One, the municipality that I'm in, and municipalities that we are wanting obviously to get into. When I say active support, one, if we are able to get access to land, because I always believe with us dealing with waste, we are in a way assisting the municipality. If there's a landfill crisis, we are and most municipalities say they don't have money, and it costs a lot of money to manage landfill sites. So if we are trying to curb that, I think it makes sense for them to actively partner with us and say, okay, there's land to be able to, for example, you have things called like transfer stations or drop-off centers, more especially in the areas that we are targeting. So to be able to get access to land with the government or the municipality can be like, okay, here's land in this township, use this as a drop-off or pickup zone, or buying exchange zone for the recyclables. And then you take it from there. So that's one thing I think is very, very important. The second thing that's important, I'll speak to like the more suburban areas, is the municipality being able to partner with us in enforcing things like a proper separation at source. I don't know if you guys know what that is, where basically waste is separated from the home, from what is recycled, what is not being recycled, and what is not being recycled is then put in the black bag and is disposed. So I think there's room for that. Not much of that is happening in our country. There's a lot of room for that to happen. So I think, yeah, the municipality actively supporting us, if it means we are creating awareness around that, the municipality must be there, because sometimes when you go there as just a company, people don't take you seriously, especially we are a small company, you know. So for the municipality to just actively be there and be like, okay, we are here, we're pushing this thing, we're doing awareness campaigns with you guys. If it means we need to do some alterations in our bylaws to be able to implement these things, we're going to do that, you know. If it means, obviously, maybe we might not do it at a go, we piloted in an area, but we set up that once we've piloted and it works, we're going to have bylaws change, then we do that, because at the end of the day, this works for them indirectly, or, you know. So not being able to be supported by the municipality is very, very challenging to be able to reach the people, reach the masses accordingly, and have more impact in our communities, you know, because as much as we do make money out of it, but at the end of the day, we are cleaning the environment. At the end of the day, we're providing economic opportunities for the people. So why not? Why can't they say, there's the land, we don't have to buy it? But I mean, it's a municipal project at the end of the day, as I said, indirectly, I mean, it's working for them. Yeah, so I think that's one thing for me that I feel like is a major thing, just like being able to have that municipality and government actively partnering. And if you'd notice, I didn't say anything about money at this point, but I'm just saying about things that would make what we wanting to do run a bit easier, you know, besides funding, because I mean, we can get funding. We have access to a number of private companies that want to fund us, because the fact that we don't have access to land, it's limiting. If someone wants to give me a machinery, where am I going to place the machinery if I don't have decent land to be able to work from, for example? Yeah, so I think that's, for me at this present moment, that's the main kind of support. So I'll make an example. In our Escort project, we have a sponsor that has supported us to get things started in that project. And our main issue right now is electricity. So the municipality had indicated that they will, because we've got a container, they will assist us in connecting our container to the electricity, and that didn't happen. So I was having a meeting, because I have like weekly meetings with our sponsors, and they're like, so what's happening with the electricity? Because we want to give you guys a baling machine, which is a machine that compacts all the recyclable waste and basically adds value to it, which basically means we can get a bit more money, and then we can also buy it for a little bit more from the people. And so imagine that's a challenge for us, that, okay, we've got, I'd say, land, but it doesn't have the full infrastructure. And the company, our sponsors been saying that, no, we can't say we're going to fund you with setting up the electrical things, because that's municipal land. You know, the municipality should be able to take ownership and say, it's our land. We could do that, you know, at least we can just do that, you know, so things like that. And then obviously now that's causing our vision to take a step, like we're not able to move as fast as we want to move. We're not able to impact as much as we want to impact because of those kind of limitations. So for me, I think those are the main two things. That's the kind of support where the municipality comes, sit down with us, here's what we want to do, here's what we want to do, and supports us fully, not just financially. As I said, I didn't mention finances, but in terms of how do we then bring our infrastructure to their land? How do we work together? How do they come with policies that they can enforce to make things a little bit easier? Yeah. Sorry, I rambled a bit.